Right everyone, time for a double issue review, and this is number 35 and 36 of Combat Patrol. Now, what do we actually get with this Combat Patrol? There's no other way to put it. There's a pretty cool set of Space Marine Havocs. I've had a quick look at the actual sprue itself, just because I wanted to, get a good idea of what's on here before I did the video. And I was really impressed with what is available on this sprue set. So much so that I regret not trying to find an extra set of magazines now, so I could actually get a full squad of 10. However, that said, we'll look at the miniatures in a second, and we'll just kind of have a quick review of the two issues. So, as you would expect, we get a build part of them. The builds are very complex. There is no other way to put it. These are definitely some of the newer wave of miniatures. There's a lot of pieces that you have to kind of get together. You can build basically a champion and 4 Havocs or 5 Havocs. If you build the champion, one thing I really like about this is that the aspiring champion can have a selection of specialist weapons, so they can have a plasma gun, a melter gun, and I think flamer might be the other option. So that is actually a good set of weapons that are available to have. I also like that for another reason, because I kind of like the fact that we get some additional special weapons for kit bashing other Chaos Space Marines in the future. That's useful to me because I really want to kit bash if the scale's there to some Horus Heresy ones for my Night Lord's Horus Heresy. So any extra weapons is useful to me. Now, the actual number of heavy weapons you can put together in this thing, again, is huge. So we have things like a rotary cannon. Now, the rotary cannon is very similar to a Horus Heresy era weapon. You've got things like, obviously, the heavy bolters as weapon choices. The thing that I am interested in about this is the base size is bigger than a regular Chaos Space Marine squad, which is a kind of a downside. Now, I like the fact that they are a good heavy size, and that really, shouts that this is a heavy weapon squad. But if you wanted to maybe put one of these in a squad and swap out the Havoc from the squad, the base size is going to be inconsistent, which for a casual game isn't a problem, but if you want to go tournament games, you really can't have mismatched base sizes. But the number of options with these weapons is just so awesome. Laser cannons, missile launchers. Okay, there's the lore as well about the Chaos Renegades. Again, I can't really sort of place the chapter front and center here. The red could be the word bearers, but there's not enough kind of text on them. Could be the Red Corsairs. Anyway, the thing is, it talks a bit about the traitor legions and being a Chaos Renegade. Talks about the Armory of the Damned. I've noticed this is a big problem with the Combat Patrol. There's some really lazy creation of the magazines, and they just kind of rip a lot, and I'm not the only one apparently who sees that. Something is wrong with the machines that's binding them, and they're damaging the magazines as they're putting them together. They're gluing them in the wrong place. I don't know what's causing it, but it always seems to be around here. So I'll be curious if that's a common thing that's going on. Anyway, let's get myself back here. So yeah, talks about the Red Corsairs and Huron Blackheart. Red Corsairs are basically the biggest of the Renegade chapters, So they're actually not a legion like many others are, like the Black Legion or the Iron Warriors or the Night Lords or the Word Bearers. They're actually a renegade chapter, so long after the Horus Heresy, who have become very big by recruiting other renegades to join them. So it's a very interesting little thing deciding to, if you wanted to do the Red Corsairs. Okay, so, you know, talking about the Armoury of the Damned, things like Obliterators, Hellbrutes, as demonic, possessed Space Marines and their dreadnoughts. Cool stuff about the Land Raider, which is like basically a sacred, in some cases, tank. It's only available to the Space Marines officially. A little bit introducing us to the Orcs now, a reading section about what a war is. And then obviously our little, you know, bits of information about collecting and getting a data sheet together, how to read the data sheet. Talking about the charge phase and the rules so far. So quite a lot about how to play the game at the moment, like quite an in-depth bit about how to play the game actually. Okay, now on to 36, which is our second part of this, you know, second part of the Havocs. Front and centre there is I think that's a Defiler, is it? Again, a Chaos Space Marine Demon engine. Doesn't really, it looks like a Space Marine thing, basically, so it looks like it belongs to the Chaos Space Marines. But one thing that I find interesting about it is there's no real pre-heresy unit that looks like the Defiler, so it's very difficult. You can't just sort of sit back and turn around and say, oh, it looks like this tank or this walker. It's a very unique looking thing. I would love in the Horus Heresy if they actually give us the pre-heresy version of this, so the thing that it came from. So if you ever collect the Death Guard, there's bloat drones, and there is actually a flying drone during the Horus Heresy that used to be. So I'd love to see where this came from, because normally corrupted stuff has a starting point. Okay, how to paint these in the style of the Black Legion. Now obviously I am doing a Word Bearer successor chapter. I've not had a chance to do another paint video yet because it's just too hot and I can't paint. I'm trying to keep things cool, but no matter what I do, my wet palette dries up, and even trying to do a short video is difficult at the moment. But so this is how you do the Black Legion. I will do my version of this for the Crimson Heralds, which is my Space Marine splinter faction of the Word Bearers. Now, I'm not going to do a how to paint for every single one of these, because quite frankly that will take a very long time. So I'll probably pick one of them in particular and use that as my sample. Even then, I'll probably won't do the whole paint. I'll probably just maybe cover key areas. Okay, but these guys are looking really cool. In fact, on this paint video, yeah, it goes it goes through the initial layers of first layer and shading, and then it doesn't really go into relayering, but I don't think it's required at this point. On our little reading section, we've got the engines of the damned, basically corrupted machines. So we've got quite a few interesting ones. We actually get, I believe, this one, a Forge Fiend, with the actual collection, which I think is amazing. The fact that we get something that's pretty close to a knight. So it's not as big as a knight, but it's pretty big. It's quite a beast, this thing. I've not seen one for a while, the actual model, but I do recall it being quite a beast. I'd love to see how it stacks up against the Tyrannid and the Brutalis Dreadnought. Things like our Lord Discordant, which is a Dark Mechanicus. Is it? No, it's not. Is it? It's a. Oh, I thought it was a Mechanicus thing, but it's not. It's actually a Chaos Space Marine riding a weird demon steed. There's also a little bit of information about Verin Crawlers. Again, another type of demon engine. Defilers, which were one of the early demon engines that they created. One thing that's very interesting about it is it doesn't look that corrupted. So it's not really full-blown demonic. It doesn't have big blobby fleshy bits. It's still more of a machine than a demon. You've got things like Helldrakes, flying demon engines. There's loads of cool demon engines that Chaos Space Marines have that really pack a punch on the battlefield. A little bit of stuff about the God of Sneech, which again, it's the demon armies always seem to take second fiddle to the Chaos Space Marines in 40k, whereas in the Age of Sigmar and the Old World, it's usually the demon armies that are very prominent. So you don't tend to come across that many 40k demon armies, or maybe that's just me. Maybe I just don't come across people who collect demon armies in 40k. A bit more of a story about the Silver Templars. Again, these kind of stories are always good to encourage us to try different things with our painting, oddly enough. Maybe you haven't painted your Space Marines yet. It's a great idea. You've got silver. Go for it. Try and do the Silver Templars. What else have we got? Some more cool rules about data sheets and how to use them. Nice little scenario called Big Guns Never Tire, which is good. So we've got the Havocs actually fighting, which is what we want to see. We want to use these Havocs in a battle against Winged Tyrant Prime and some Termagants. Okay then. I think as well, I'm just kind of having a look at the kind of weapons that are on display here. There's a good chance that kind of these two things are perfectly designed for ripping down the Termagants, whereas these things are great for taking down bigger creatures. Anyway, so there we go. That is our kind of two issues. One thing that I really want to have a look at then is these, and as I said, there's a lot going on this that's actually pretty cool by the look of it. So the detail on them is quite good. What I would say is they've got quite kind of like the troops themselves seem to have a very wide-legged pose, like they're braced for a heavy weapon fire. You can just kind of see that the scale of the weapons is quite huge. I mean, they've really got some heavy weapons going on here. What I like as well is these here, the Reaper autocannons. There's two of them. I'm gonna have to check my Horus Heresy rules to see if they're heavy weapons that are available, because I would love to kit bash them onto some Mark 6 armor. Would look really good. And more than that, you've got, I think, two heavy bolters. Let's see, a rotator cannon, a las cannon, two missile launchers, I think. Two missile launchers, two laser cannons. Yeah, wow, what a lot of choices you've got of actually putting these together. I think the only shame is that, you can't easily put them all together and use them all. But I love the way that they're kind of designed with so many options. It's just so cool. Even the Aspiring Champion has, mauls, chainswords, plasma gun, melter gun, flamer. I'm sure I saw a flamer before as well somewhere. So again, even the Aspiring Champion has some weapon options, and to be honest, looking at it, I'm pretty certain as well that you could probably take a Power Fist from the Chaos Space Marine sprue and use that on it as well. So we have got a lot of choices. The models are beautifully detailed. I think the only problem with these is they're going to be a nightmare to paint once they're all glued together. So it's going to be very difficult to paint behind parts of it. And it might be a good idea to leave the heavy weapon off, the actual weapon off, while you paint it to make your life easier. Even down to the power packs. So the actual power packs for the unit, you've got then very specific ammo feeds built onto the power plant, which again just add to the quality, add to the character of them. They seem quite large as well, the miniatures. Now I suppose one thing we can do is we can get something like the heavy bolter from the other kit, and actually they're about the same size. In fact, they're so much about the same size that I'm surprised that they've put them on bigger bases. It doesn't quite make that much sense, that they're not bigger, they're not taller by the look of it. The actual gun, now that's where it's going to make a difference, isn't it? I would probably say that even the gun itself is about the same size, the big difference being that they've got these long ammo belts, whereas this is it's probably not accurate to call that a drum, but it's it's a drum. Basically it's a magazine, yeah. Much like seems to have some kind of magazine on his back up here. So the way that the actual weapons feed in is a lot more practical by the look of it. They make a lot more sense as far as I can tell. So yes, size-wise, they don't seem to be that much different. Sometimes one thing that's a good idea to do is take a Primaris and put a Primaris next to them. And you can see a Primaris is so much bigger. So again, it's strange that they've decided to put these guys on such a large base size. And I think they should have just stuck to the normal base size, so that you can hot swap them out into your squads. That makes sense to me, but I think that's just the way I think, basically. But I'm looking forward to putting these together. So those are issue 35 and 36 dual issue review. I hope you find that useful. I know I'm actually behind for the UK, but other countries I'm ahead, so hopefully if you've not quite got up to this yet, you'll find these videos useful. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next video.